Welcome to Advisory Conversations with Tim Seymour and Deb Halliday. This podcast is for accounting professionals and financial coaches who are ready to step beyond compliance and into advisory. Because real advisory isn't about doing more yourself. It's about building something that works without you being the bottleneck.
Hey Deb, how are you today?
I'm great, thanks, Tim. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today I thought we would like to listen to your story, Tim, about your early career, where everything started. I find it fascinating. So, love to hear that, please.
Oh, wow. Okay, no pressure then. So where do you want me to start?
From the beginning. Let's go from the beginning.
It's like reading a book, isn't it? Okay, we'll go for business journey. So I left school age 16 on a Friday, which was the last day in June 1985. This was, if anyone's wondering my age, they can probably work it out from that. And I started work on the following Monday, which was the first Monday in July. It's interesting because a couple of the teachers in my school report that came after that day kind of said I needed to be a bit more serious, and I might not actually get on too well in the world of business and careers and stuff. And yet I was the only one that had a job when we left school. So it's interesting, isn't it, how different perceptions of people can have of us as children. So I started work on the Monday, and I worked for NatWest International Bank in Bristol. So that's about 12 miles from home. So age 16, had to go and get on the bus. Didn't really know where it was going, apart from I had to get into the centre of Bristol. And the bus journey was probably about an hour and 40 minutes. So not much fun, because it went all the way around the houses, picking up everyone at the bus stop. So a new world to me, and you just had to get on with it in those days. And I think that's kind of what we did. So I worked in NatWest International to start off with. Fantastic place to start a career. The world of international banking introduced me to money, introduced me to all the foreign money that was used in those days, way before the euro. France still had francs, that kind of thing. Germany still had Deutschmarks. I could probably go through, you could probably ask countries, and I probably remember the currencies for a lot of the countries. I found it a really interesting place to work. And there was, I think about 30 of us started at the same time, which helped, but we all got spread around the building into different departments. So only one or two of us went into the department I started in. And it just gave you an introduction to the world and what goes on when you're working for someone, the rules, the rules to follow. And the bank were quite strict with how you handled your own money. So I learned, pretty quickly that going overdrawn was not a good thing to do if you worked for the bank, and you had your knuckles rapped if you did. You even had your checkbook taken off you, and you used to have to go to the office to ask permission to write a check to get some cash out from the counter in the building that I worked in. So interesting start to life. I think I was there 3.5 years. And I kind of wanted to diversify into accounting. I don't really know why, if I'm honest with you, but it was just something that sat there in my mind. My dad was an accountant, and he worked for a family haulage company for 35 plus years. So maybe there was an element of following in his footsteps. And so I left the bank, and I started working in a small a sort of food machinery manufacturing business. So they didn't actually manufacture the machines, but they bought them in from Italy and sold them to the meat manufacturing, the abattoirs and all the places that cut up the meat to then go out to the butchers and to the retail pubs, etc. So it was really interesting. It was manual accounting. We were laughing and joking about T accounts the other day. And manual accounting, handwriting the sales daybook and sticking in the customer's card underneath, so it all duplicated through. So then you'd write out the cash book as well when the money came in. and then writing out manual journals. It was eye opening, but what a way to learn how to put together a set of accounts. And to me, it was actually a work of art to do it in that way. And I moved on through 2 or 3 different companies over the next 10 years, probably. And I ended up working for a large family bakery firm called Mount Stevens, which, if you're in the West Country, and you're a similar age to me, you would remember Mount Stevens. They had about 90 to 100 shops around this area, and I worked in where the factory was, in the finance department. And I worked for a guy called Barney, who was the finance director. Amazing personality, amazing guy. Didn't suffer fools. He was sandy haired, and he used to go bright red in the face if he was angry about something, and you'd hear his footsteps marching through, so you kept your head down. But when it came to producing the accounts, he was on the button with everything. He knew every pound, where every pound should be and where it should be accounted for. And if the margins didn't look right, he would make you go back to the stock take and go and find out, because you'd missed a pallet of flour or something. And do you know what? I don't think he was ever wrong. He was always right. You'd go back and you'd go back to the store man, and you'd say, I think we've missed something. And he'd go, oh yeah, there's one over there. I forgot about that one. Barney was always right, and I learned so much from him. But we used to handwrite the profit and loss out, and we had it all in line, so all the numbers were in line, and you could add it through if you needed to. And we used the adding machines with the little printouts that you used to get. I think you spoke about those as well, Deb, in a previous conversation. But I don't think I would have the knowledge of how to put accounts together without working in these places, because then when computer software became more common, and a lot of companies introduced bespoke accounting packages it worked for their business, because that was the thing originally, wasn't it? We can make it bespoke to you and your business, and everyone thought that was amazing. But actually, it was probably the worst thing that can happen, because imagine being the chartered accountants in those days. You had all these different computer softwares to have to deal with, whereas now with Xero, QuickBooks, and Free Agent, and all the other ones that we know and we use commonly, everything's fairly standardized, isn't it, for us? So it's quite easy for us as accountants and bookkeepers these days to produce accounts in a standardized format. But yeah, what I did find, going off on a tangent probably, Deb, like I do, but what I did find doing the manual accounting, having to handwrite it, you understood double entry. So when you went into the world of computerized software and software accounts being produced in Sage, etc., when something went wrong, you could look at the trial balance and think, well, the trial balance doesn't balance. How can that be in the software system? But it used to happen. And the only way you could unravel that was by understanding where the other side of the entry was missing. So you had to find the particular entry that had been put into the system where the other side hadn't fed through for whatever reason. And you could only find that if you had the knowledge of the manual accounting side. So that was a hell of an experience, I would say, working for companies like that, sort of small, medium-sized businesses, being the management accounnt, then becoming the financial controller, then in time becoming a finance manager of businesses and having a team beneath me, that did the purchase ledger, the sales ledger, all the usual accounting functions, the credit control, and yeah, I think some of that experience has been invaluable to me, more valuable than sitting your accounting qualifications in the background whilst all that's going on, and having young children, trying to do it at home whilst working a 9-to-5 job that was quite often 8 till 6 or 7 till 7 at times in the world that we lived in. Work had to be done. And with the bosses back in those days, if the work wasn't done, you weren't going home. The work had to be done, full stop, and you didn't necessarily get overtime if you worked in the office either. So it could be a tough environment sometimes, but one that I think it molds you into who you are later on in life, and you learn perhaps how to communicate with people, how to look after your team in a different way to the old school way that we were probably brought up in the world of business. So that's kind of where my first steps into the accounting world happened, and then I moved from, so I worked for quite a lot of small, medium-sized business. I kind of changed around every probably 3 or 4 years, because I was climbing the ladder each time. I was always looking to get to the next level, and because they were sort of smallish businesses, perhaps it wasn't an environment for me to move up within those companies. So I tended to keep looking to keep moving forward and to keep trying to climb that ladder and get as high as I could. Be more responsible. And in the end, I ended up going to some very large corporations, which again was a massive eye opener to how the world is ran, from a big corporation's perspective, so different to a small business perspective. And I couldn't get my head around it at the beginning, because in a small business, you're involved in everything. You're just involved. If there's a delivery, you go and sign for it. If something has to be delivered to someone, there's no one to take it, you're asked to just jump in the car and go and deliver that to that customer because they're waiting for it. You just do it. You just do anything you need to do. You make the tea. You do. Of course, you just do anything. I have been known to sweep up the floor in the past. Change the light bulbs, all those kind of things, because it needed doing. Whereas you go to the big corporation and you are such a small cog, and you've only got this little area to work in, and yeah, you wouldn't know what the light bulb's gone. Oh, you ring up maintenance, they come and do that. You're like, well, can't we just change it? No, you'll have to wait for maintenance to come. So things like that, I couldn't get my head around. But what I did learn is how to manage massive budgets. I worked on a particular project that was £1.9 billion in value. And it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But then you think a number's a number at the end of the day. A budget's a budget, so you've got your actual spend, you've got your budget, and you put the two together and you say, well, hang on, you're overspending in this area. We need to sort this out. Or, yeah, okay, great, we've made a saving there, but why is that? Have we not bought some of the goods that we should have bought? Is there something missing? And this was a massive manufacturing project as well. So yeah, being responsible for that was quite frightening, but also really educational when I look back. And I'm quite proud of the project that I worked on. It's quite well known. I'm not sure I can share what it is, so I'd probably just best not to, just to be safe. But it was working for BAE Systems, which is British Aerospace. And then I went on to work for Airbus. And at Airbus, I was working in the wing assembly department, which again I found really interesting. It was when they've made the first parts of the wing for the A380, the massive A380 airplane. So I was involved very slightly in that process from an accounting perspective. It was just one part of the wing, but it was really interesting to be involved in it and to see the manufacturing aspect of it, and then have to account for what's going on, all the costs of materials, the cost of the labour. It was real management accounting, real proper getting deep into the numbers. And then every Monday we always had a team meeting for that wing assembly team, and I had to deliver the financial performance for the the update for the week. What had been spent, what hadn't been spent, which department was overspending, which one wasn't. And I always remember the guys, the supervisors, they always appreciated that I was able to deliver the financial information to them in a way that they could understand it. So in simple terms. And I think that's a skill that I'd learned along the way.
Yeah.
And it's a skill that put me in good stead for when I set up my own accountancy practice. Because we don't serve clients who are necessarily numerical or have massive amounts of financial acumen or even understand how to read accounting reports. So being able to explain it in simple terms, I think, has always been really important, a really important skill to have. And that kind of then leads you into the world that if you've got those types of skills, they can be developed and honed. And also maybe for people that work for you, they can be trained into an area to deliver advisory later on down the line, which I know we can come to it at some point later on. But yeah, I just thought it was worth adding that and making that point, because it's, while I'm talking, it's quite apparent, but by talking through your story, you actually realize you've done quite a lot in your career. And I'd actually urge anyone listening to this, to actually think about that. And think about, talk to someone about everything you've worked through, and all these things will come back into your head about what you have achieved, who you have worked for, what you did do, and if it's been running your own business all that time, well, what an even greater achievement, to have kept a business going all these years, and to be able to share the success that your clients have had. I think it's an important aspect that we don't do enough of, and some pure reflection on, what you've done and who you've helped along the way. Yes, it's not perfect. There's been mistakes. Of course, I've made some mistakes, but it's how you deal with that when that happens, and what you do moving forward from that point, and how you learn and how you face up to it as well. If you've done something wrong, and you've done something wrong on the client's behalf, you have to just face up to it, go and talk to them, tell them. And people prefer honesty, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. I guess after I was at Airbus, I just know there was something in me always where I didn't settle. Like I said, I moved around every sort of 3 or 4 years because I wanted something else. And I guess I didn't know what that something else was until the thoughts started going in my mind about running my own accountancy business. Now, when you've worked in business to then go and set up an accountancy practice, it's a completely different world, and an interesting world, of course. And it's, for anyone who's done it, and there's many people that have, it's a brave step to make. And I think we should all congratulate ourselves for making that step in the first place, because it's easy to be employed and to receive your salary every month, have security in a job. It's very hard to take that step out of that secure environment to suddenly running your own business and thinking, the only way money is coming into this business so I can get paid is if I earn it. And also if I can find customers. So I have to now go and find customers. And you suddenly realize that actually being an accountant isn't enough.
No.
It's just not enough. It's like, what does that mean? Great, I can produce accounts for people. I can do their tax returns. I can produce their statutory accounts. I can submit their corporation tax, their VAT. I can run their PAYE, payroll systems, etc., etc. I can do all these things. Fantastic. Got all these skills. I've got no customers. So what do I do? And that is when you suddenly realize what you've done. And it's make or break time, isn't it? It's right. Okay, I've got to find people fast. Fortunately for me, I was able to work with a local estate agency franchise company that had 3 or 4 different offices at the time, and they wanted me to get involved and work around about 2.5 days a week. So I was able to work for them and build the other clients up around it. So I had half an income coming in, I suppose you could say. But again, there's other costs involved, isn't there, when you run a business? So suddenly that money is not actually all yours. And there's also tax to think about. It sounds stupid saying this out loud when you're an accountant, but it's things you don't perhaps factor in when you're trying to set up on your own. And if we feel like that, what on earth do people that just run their own businesses that aren't accountants and bookkeepers, how do they feel when they suddenly get to the end of the year and they've got a bit of a shock when it comes to the accounts and where they're at, and whether they've paid themselves too much, and who knew about directors' loan accounts at that point in time as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things you learn when you start up your own business. And I built a business up on a lot of clients paying low fees, if I'm honest with you, because I just didn't have the confidence in price, and I didn't really understand the relevance of getting the pricing right, of how that affects everything, how it affects how much money you can earn, but also how it affects how much time you have to put into the business to be able to get the level of income into the business, to be able to cover the costs and pay yourself what you want to pay yourself. And then, of course, then you want to bring a team, or you want to employ a couple of people. I never had a massive team. I had a couple of people work for me. But then there's a responsibility there, isn't there? You've then got an employee or 2 employees, and You've got to bring the money in to be able to cover what they're paid. I guess I got the accountant I got on board with me, Laura. She was really good. She was a very good accountant, very good compliance accountant, and that's all of what I thought I needed. And so we had this compliance practice that served a lot of people. I think we had about 250 clients at one point, all a mixture of monthly and annual or quarterly, because I did do quarterly work with people as well because of the VAT quarters. And it was hard work. I was working long hours, and I started to struggle with it because I became exhausted, and well, I was probably burnt out if I'm honest about it. And I know I've shared this with you before, Deb, but I do reflect back to one night when I was, sat in my office with my, face planted on my desk and thinking, what on earth have I created here? I looked out the office and I can see it now. My car was the only car in the car park. All the other business owners on the unit had gone home. And I just thought there's something not right here. I'm not running this business in the right way. And so I wanted to find a way to serve my customers and to find some better customers. And so I entered the world of advisory. And when you start to offer advice to people and advice to business owners about how they can take ownership of decisions in their business, how they can understand what's happening with the finances in their business, rather than just issue them a monthly management account report and expect them to understand it, because that's what I was doing before. It was a tick in the box exercise. Yeah, here's your monthly management account. There you go. I've served you for the month. That's it. Tick in the box, invoice done. Boom. Now why aren't they paying me? It was kind of that. Whereas when I started to talk to people on a one-to-one basis, when I got them to come, because a lot of I had people all over the UK, but my bigger customers were local. So I had a sofa, I had an armchair, I had a coffee table in the office, because it was quite a big office for the small sort of business that we were. But I was able to bring people in, make them a cup of coffee, sit down with them on the sofa, go through the numbers that we were seeing, talk about the patterns that were developing, understand what they were trying to achieve, what their objectives were, and then be able to deliver them with more advice from a perspective that you understood what they were looking to achieve and where they were coming from, as opposed to when you just look at a set of accounts on a computer system, or you print off a P&L and a balance sheet and make assumptions. This was actually a different level of conversation, because it's an open dialogue where both of you are getting information from each other. You're asking lots of questions and then you're receiving information from them. So I found that was really worthwhile, and I really enjoyed that. And my energy was really high starting to work in that area. I had to do a lot of it for nothing originally, because how do you put together an advisory offer? We didn't know it. We didn't know then. No, there was, was anyone really helping people in that area? Maybe there was a few, but not really doing it for me, not really kind of like grabbing my attention. So I was kind of feeling my way through how I do this myself. But as I built up some success with a handful of clients, I was able to then start to think, how can I turn this into an offer? How do I monetize this? And that was when I started going down the traditional value pricing methodology, where you had the classic is the bronze, silver, gold. I don't think I called them that. I think I used my football passion. I think I had some like Premier Championship, I don't know, something like that. Or I don't think I went with that in the end, because I thought no one wants to be League One, do they? So I think I went with something like World, Europe, UK, something like that, as in the kind of Premier League, the UEFA Champions League and the World Cup, kind of that scenario I went with, because I tried to make it fun. Yeah. And everyone who knew me, they knew I was into football, and knew I was a coach and etc. outside of work. So it was kind of like a make it a bit of fun, make it a bit of a joke around what I do as a hobby, but they understood the concept of the different routes they could go through. And in that way, I was able to add advisory in at different levels. And that was when became easier, because I had it laminated, and I had it in my office. So I was able to share it if someone was in the office. But if I was on a call with someone, I had it to hand. I could just pick it up and say, "This is the package for you. This is what you'll get from it. This is what we'll be looking to achieve. You've already told me your outcomes, so we're going to start moving you towards those. And this is what it is." And there was no kind of like, shall I faff around? What are they paying there? Like in the old days, what are they paying their previous account? I always wanted to look at their accounts to see what they were paying their previous account, and so I could picture myself just below. What? Seriously, that's what I did. It's mad, isn't it? Or I like put my finger in the air and think, what should I risk saying is the price for this now? So this now, I had like a proper offer. I had a proper concept of what advisory was. Didn't happen overnight. It did take a bit of time, but I was able to start delivering the advisory. And what I found was I had a passion for it. And I really was energized when I was having those conversations, or preparing for a meeting for a client coming in, or reflecting on the meeting I'd had with that client afterwards. Whereas when it came to the submitting accounts to HMRC and Companies House, and doing the tax return, I was just like, I really don't want to do this anymore. So I was working out how I could go down this route of just being an advisor. And fortunately for me, a local accountancy firm, I'd attracted attention, and they came to me and said they wanted to buy the accountancy side of the business. And within 3 months, there was no messing around with negotiations, to be honest. I can remember him saying to me, "I don't want to mess you around. I'm going to offer this." And he offered me a really high ratio. And I was like, "Do you know what? I like that." I was really like, I thought, I like that. There's no trying to grind each other down and to a certain number. He just made a really good offer. And I just thought, "Do you know what? I'm up for this." And I liked the way that he made his offer. And I just thought, yeah, this is it. I can sell the compliance side off. I can focus on advisory. And that's what I did. And yeah, it was very weird. I'm not going to lie. The day after I'd sold the accountancy, I think it was on a Friday. I think me and Sarah, my wife, we went to St. Ives for the weekend, just to like kind of celebrate in a way. And I think it was on the Tuesday I went back into work, and I sat in my office like this. I was just like, what do I do? I'm so used to producing accounts. What do I do? And I was like, started to post on social media and started trying different things. Now it sort of dawned on me, I thought, this doesn't feel like work. This feels like good fun. But I had some clients already, and I created a program, and I got some people in this program. And yeah, I had great fun trying these things out. I started to earn some money. Obviously, I had the comfort of having payments for the accountancy business in the background. And yeah, so that was the accountancy business. I ran it for 17 years. And like I said, I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot as well. Nothing's perfect. We're not taught to be business owners, but we become business owners, and we work it out is normally what happens. And I guess those that can work it out faster than others will maybe be successful quicker than others. But the advantage that we've got is because we've gone through it, 40, I think we worked out, I've got 41 years of experience of working within the finance world and industry, and all these different industries I've worked in, but mainly with the last, 21, 22 years with in the accountancy world. It helps be able to share that knowledge and share all the lessons we've learned, so that other accountants and bookkeepers can shortcut their route to success, because that's what I want to do for people. That's where my passion kicks in. Is I don't want people to be there with their head first clapped on the desk like I was, and stressed out and having to go to work on a Sunday, when you want to be doing something with the family, or going in on a Saturday afternoon when I wanted to take my boys to watch Bristol City. Yes, Bristol City, I know, but I wanted to take them to watch them, and I found myself sat in the office not being able to. So I did take them many times, by the way, the poor kids, but they've grown up now and they forgive me. Someone has to support them. We know this. So that was that. And then I'm talking so much, Deb. I'm so sorry. You asked me to tell a
really
story. I've
interesting.
kind of gone off on a roll.
It's really interesting, Tim. It's fascinating the variance in experience that you've gained, but within one industry. So it's you started off at the bank, but then you went to small, medium businesses as in accounting, and then you ended up as financial controller with what was it, a what was the billion?
1.9 billion.
1.9 billion
Yeah,
project.
it's mad, isn't it?
It's crackers, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's a budget
yeah.
for a project
Can't even write
of
that
that.
number out, if I'm
Yeah,
honest with you.
I mean that's from one extreme to the other, isn't it? Really, I mean but that's really culmination of all your experiences,
Yeah,
and your journey, and then to leave that kind of position and start off on your own back in accountancy, um, for and serve small to medium-sized businesses, and then do that for 17 years, and then within that top end of that, have an advisory service, um,
yeah,
leave compliance behind, and then of course more recently you've been helping other accountants and um,
yeah,
bookkeepers, business owners themselves, practice owners themselves, start offering advisory and go on the advisory journey,
yeah,
so that they don't have their head in their hands, um, and be the only car left in the car park, because there's
yeah.
up to their eyes in tax returns. Yeah, I think it's a fascinating journey, quite different from my own, and we'll talk about my own in another episode. But
We
I
will.
love it. I mean, but I did notice it. I loved the story about when you're in a meeting and you set an alarm off. Will you tell us that? Because I thought that was hilarious. Please,
I was only
we can end
16.
on that. That's a classic.
Yeah, that was in my very first job. So when I worked for NatWest International, and when I first went there, I was in a department called Foreign Notes and Coins, and part of the office had this secure section where only one person could go in, plus the supervisor of the whole department. I guess it was a safe area, whatever. It had like glass panels so we could see the lady in there, but we couldn't access it. So it was a safe with all the money was held in there. And you think how many foreign currencies there are.
Yeah.
What we used to do was we were putting up the orders for people going on holiday. So we would have the local branches would put their orders in and say we want, I don't know, so many Spanish pesetas as it was in those days, and we want it in these denominations because we've got to fulfill these orders. So then we would have to get the money, we'd count it all out, it would have to be checked, and it would go off. And at the end of the day, we'd balance to make sure the money that had come in and all the money had gone out, all balanced and everything. And we couldn't go home if it didn't balance. It was really serious. It had to be to the penny or to the peseta, whichever, whichever, all these different currencies. So everything had to balance at the end of the day. And that was a tough thing to do. But anyway, this particular day, and I'd only been there a couple of months, we had to sit in different places for some reason. So we had to sit on another desk. And we were waiting for the money to come in. So we had all these orders to fulfill, but we didn't have the money to start counting up to fulfill the orders. And so we're sat there and we're chatting away. And, I was sat with a few people, I say older. They were probably only 3 or 4 or 5 years older than me. But when you're 16, that seems quite a big gap in the working world. And we're sat there and I'm sort of fiddling around. And I'm a bit of a nervous. I can be a bit nervous, especially when I was younger. So I was sort of twitching around and fiddling around under the desk. And I thought, what's this? And there was this kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but I sort of put my finger inside it and there was this button in there. And I just sort of, my finger just kind of pushed it. I didn't think anything of it. I thought, I wonder what that is. Anyway, 2 minutes later, there's all panic in the post room behind us, and they're coming in, and there's people running everywhere, and they're like, "What's going on? What's going on? The police are armed police are downstairs. They're all ready to come up." And we're like, "What are you on about? There's nothing going on." Someone's pressed the alarm, and I'm sat there, and I just thought, "Oh no." I just went like a tomato in my face, bright red. I had all this hair as well then as well. And I was just bright red. And I went, "Is it under this desk?" And they went, "Yeah." And I went, "I might have pressed it." And it was humiliating. So half the people I worked with were all trying not to laugh, because obviously it was really serious, but it was really funny. And my supervisor's face, he just went as red as I would, but you could see the steam coming out of his ears. He was brilliant about it, actually. His name was Trevor. I still remember it. He was a lovely bloke. But yeah, it's just, what do you do? You know what it's like when you're 16. You fiddle around with everything, don't you? You can't help yourself. And set the alarm off. The police were downstairs. Everything. There was complete chaos around the whole bank. 400 people working there, and it soon got round. The new lad Tim. Oh, the shame. It went on for months. Everybody knew it was me, but I never had it was such a good place to work. It was all in the right spirit. But yeah, things you do when you're young and you're learning, and you just don't think. Didn't compute in my head what department I was in, and of course it's alarmed. But at 16, didn't even think about it. Mind you, no one told me it was there, so I don't know. But
No. That's funny. That's very funny.
Caused the commotion.
Something you remember all this time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? So, yeah, amazing. But yeah, so that's it, really, Deb. I don't know what else I can tell you. Well, as you know, and you alluded to, 4 years of supporting accountants, guiding accountants and bookkeepers or accounting professionals, business coaches, through lots of different strategies about offering advisory, looking after them within a community. Again, learned so much from that environment. Enjoyed helping people that built, and I built up some good relationships with people. So yeah, again, it's 4 years of experience. It stands me in great stead to continue supporting accounting professionals as we move forward with what we're doing now. Now our world's changed slightly, and we move forward in our direction, and it's exciting times for us. So
it is.
So yeah. That's where we're at.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm one of those people that you helped over the last 4 years.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, I know. Well, what's interesting with you, Deb, is that I have always felt that you followed in the steps that I encouraged you to take, but you still took those steps yourself. I've encouraged a lot of people to take steps, but not everybody does. Some people do, some people don't. And you took those steps, but you then took those steps to the next level. And I think we'll talk about that more when we talk through your story. But that's something I'd love to talk about a bit more when we talk about you, because that's important to me to share that message, because you didn't just follow me, you followed me and some, and added more. And that's really good. So I think that's what makes us a good pair.
Yeah, good team.
Quest for knowledge.
Yeah.
And quest for moving forward all the time.
Yeah.
With a smile on our faces.
Yeah, always. Yeah. Always a smile. So,
yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward to the next episode. Thanks, Tim.
And me. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Deb.
Thanks for listening to Advisory Conversations with Tim Seymour and Deb Halliday. If you found this useful, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. We'll see you next time.
Welcome to our video. No, that's not right. Welcome to our website. That's a blooper.
That's all right. We'll just start again when you're ready. This is going in the bloopers section.
I think we should have a bloopers section.
I think we need one already. This is the first video.